Hey Wargamers, today we got the Dal'yth Sept preview for the new Tau Empire Codex. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we do that though, I want to say thanks for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and hit subscribe. That way you don't miss any of my upcoming battle reports, unit reviews, or anything else related to the Tau Empire Codex. Alright, so with every preview we learn a little bit about the Codex in general and a little bit about the Sept. Today we're pretty heavy on the general stuff and pretty light on the Sept stuff, so keep that in mind. But let's start with the general stuff. To begin with, Kroot got a point reduction. Seems like Vespid did as well. It's probably not going to be enough to make them really a competitive choice. I think they have to get down to like 4 points a model or something like that to really be competitive. But you know, even a little bit of a points adjustment helps make them a little bit more of a good choice in a competitive environment. So that's good. But the other thing that we learned is that they don't benefit from the Sept tenants. We should have expected this, or you know, it should have been apparent that this was going to be the case because they don't have the Sept keyword in the index. So they're probably not going to have it in the Codex, and indeed that's the case. Without the Sept keyword, of course, they're not going to be able to benefit from the Sept tenant, and therefore you're left with just generic Kroot and Vespid running around the board. So that's suboptimal. In some ways, they're not going to be benefiting from these Sept tenants, but they're still going to be able to perform the duties that they performed originally. The next group of things that we learned is related to Ghostkeels and stealth suits. Primarily, we learned that the Electro Warfare suite for the Ghostkeel is now no longer a 12-inch minimum range, it's a 6-inch minimum range. So if your opponent is outside 6 inches, they have to subtract the -1 to hit from you. There's no word on if the stealth drone is being affected in any way, so I'm assuming that's going to stay the same, which overall means that your Ghostkeel is going to be a little bit more resistant to having your enemies approach you and negate your stealth bonus. So that's good. But it also makes the Fusion Collider a little bit more appealing because you can use it at closer range and not worry about giving up your stealth bonus. Of course, you're still, you know, opening yourself up to being charged and everything like that, but you know, it's better than nothing, is I guess the takeaway there. It's an improvement, certainly. Additionally, there is a return of the Wall of Mirrors ability. Now it's a 1-point stratagem that you use on a unit of stealth suits that are within 6 inches of a Ghostkeel, and you can immediately redeploy them anywhere within 12 inches of that original Ghostkeel, but no closer than 9 inches from an enemy unit. So this is good for a couple things. One is it allows stealth teams to be removed from combat. You do at the beginning of the movement phase, and it doesn't count as falling back. So they're free to do whatever else they need to do. So they can run away a little bit more. They can charge, they can shoot, which they could do anyway because they have fly. But this is a nice way to keep your stealth suits engaged, allows them to use their short-range weaponry, and then you're able to pull them back if you need to, if they are put in danger. So that's a clear benefit there. It also helps you to kind of slingshot them for grabbing objectives. You can use this to throw your stealth suits across the board and grab a new objective if you need to. This kind of compensates for the ability of them not being able to jump, shoot, jump. They're not able to use their jump, shoot, jump ability to get to an objective, so you have this instead. I know that that's kind of a crummy consolation prize because it's not jump, shoot, jump, and it also requires a command point, but it does have some functionality there that is useful. Additionally, this is something that I think might be useful in using homing beacons. There's a rumor that homing beacons are now done at the beginning of the movement phase. This stratagem is also done at the movement phase, at the start of the movement phase, and so they happen simultaneously, and therefore you can determine the order that you want to do them in. So let's say you select to do this, you're able to slingshot your stealth team up to 9 inches away from an opponent. They can throw their homing beacon down within a couple inches of themselves, and then the crisis suit or whoever you want to deep strike can be within a few inches of the homing beacon. So you're actually able to get fairly close by slingshotting these guys up to the opponent's 9-inch mark and then throwing the homing beacon down and having kind of this leapfrog effect of stealth team, homing beacon, and then your manta strike unit. So it's a complicated way and a clumsy way to make that happen, but if the rumor for homing beacons being deployed at the beginning of the movement phase is true, this does give you a workaround that you can use, and not a bad little fire base of support for whatever you're manta striking. Having a bunch of stealth suits and a Ghostkeel nearby, a big unit of crisis suits or a commander, or whatever else you're manta striking, maybe a bunch of gun drones if they gain that ability, as rumored, then this is a good unit, a good support base for that deep striking unit. Moving on to the Dal'yth stuff, it's a little bit, well, we'll say it's just not as controversial as yesterday's preview. Let's go with that. Basically, the Dal'yth, we learned their Sept Tenant, and we also learned their Warlord trait. The Sept Tenant is that if you don't move at all, if you don't move, advance, manta strike, fall back, whatever, if you stay perfectly still, you get the benefit of cover. This is okay, but like, seriously, you have to not move at all. This is like classic Jurassic Park T-Rex situation here, where if you move at all, you lose the benefit. So that's pretty hard to actually do. I mean, there are parts of the army that you're expecting not to move. So like if you have a bunch of fire warriors, I guess they're going to be hanging out, you know, kind of in a gun line, or if you have broadsides or hammerhead, something like that, you get the benefit of cover there if you're just standing still. But overall, if you made your whole army stand still, that's not necessarily a winning strategy, because you need to get objectives. You need to do other things aside from just stand perfectly still. So it's hard to use this benefit over the vast majority of your army. So again, that kind of suggests that if you were to select Dal'yth as a Sept to include, it would be just in a single detachment and only have a few different units in it. So yeah, it's not something that stands out to me as being an auto-include, a really strong competitive choice, but in certain situations it could be useful. I'm sure there are combos out there that, you know, would benefit this. Like maybe an Arvarna, Dal'yth Arvarna would be good, just because, you know, that guy's not moving anyway, so you might as well give him the +1 cover, but he doesn't really need it, so yeah. That said, this Sept Tenant does pair somewhat well with the Warlord trait for Dal'yth, which is called Gunship Diplomat. I love that name, by the way. That's just awesome, Gunship Diplomat. But basically, it allows Kroot and Vespid within 12 inches of the Warlord to fire for the greater good. So they can shoot Overwatch just like normal Tau can, using the for the greater good ability. So that's good in some ways, because it means that your Kroot and your Vespid can be your moving pieces in your Dal'yth army. Your static components that are benefiting from the Sept Tenant are going to be your normal Tau guys, and then everything else is going to be handled by auxiliaries, by Kroot and Vespid. This is somewhat thematic, and they talk about in the preview as like Dal'yth is this great Sept if you want to use Kroot and Vespid, and it's not really a great Sept if you want to use Kroot and Vespid, but if you are playing Dal'yth, you're going to want to use Kroot and Vespid, because they're the guys that are going to move and not have an effective penalty for it. So yeah, I mean, I guess basically I can envision a Dal'yth army, you know, consisting of a static gun line, and then having Kroot and Vespid run around the board trying to grab objectives. The problem is, of course, neither of them are very fast, and Vespid are going to basically deep strike in and have to deal with dying. So yeah, but you know, in concept, that's how I would see that working. Overall, I think this is a pretty underwhelming Sept. I think there are some applications, like we talked about, if you want to have some units in a Dal'yth detachment, you can do that, and maybe it's going to work out well, but I think overall there are probably better choices. One thing that they mentioned at the end of the article is that we're going to get the preview for Vior Law next, which is great. We're going to finally get a look at Vior Law tomorrow. But originally I was expecting there to be 6 Septs, not just 5. So is Sakia, however you want to pronounce it, that 6 Sept not happening, or is it just going to be like a surprise on launch day? Are we just going to open up the book and be like, oh yeah, so there's that too? I don't know what that means, but yeah. So overall, interesting. I'm excited for this Ghostkeel stratagem. I was hoping for a little bit more in terms of changes to the Ghostkeel, or a little bit more of a nuanced stratagem for Wall of Mirrors. Like, I was hoping that if you had a Ghostkeel and a unit of a unit of stealth suits within 6 inches of each other, you could play this 2-point stratagem and give -1 to every Tau unit within 12 inches or something like that. That would be cool. This is a useful utility mechanic, but it's not necessarily something that you're going to use every game unless you're building your army around that turn 1 homing beacon drop using that leapfrog stratagem that I was just talking about. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you excited about Dal'yth or not so much? Either way, love to hear about it, and of course, happy wargaming. Hey everyone, this video was made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you like this video, consider heading on over to Patreon and joining our community there. Special thanks to NoExcusesPanda, Jordan, Paul Leuders, Giovanni DiMaggio, TauOswell, Deverson, Jared Egeler, Nick Steele, Max Harrison, and Youhei Penguin.